Sir, now I hope it is very clear what is batch update, what are advantages of batch update. A layman example whatever I covered, sir. But now let me explain with respect to calculations, with respect to statistics, without batch updates, with batch updates. Sir, what is the performance improvement differences, right? Observe that. Sir, now let me explain without batch updates. Without batch updates. Sir, I don't want to take batch updates, right? Without batch updates. Sir, I want to take simple statement. Are you getting? I want to take one simple statement object, right? Sir, in the case of simple statement, if you want to execute the query 1000 times, what will happen? Or 1000 queries if you want to execute, what is the scenario, right? Observe that. This is my Java application. Are you getting? This is the Java application, right? Next, it is the database. It is the database. Assume that, sir. Sir, in the case of simple statement, I have to send my SQL query. I have to send my SQL query to the database. For that, some time is going to be consumed, request time. Okay, sending to the database. Now, if it is a simple statement, the query will be compiled every time or not? Yes, in the case of simple statement, query will be compiled every time, sir. Query will be compiled every time and executed. That's why, sir, compulsory. The query will be compiled. So, compile time, sometime it should be inquired. Next, after compilation, the query will be executed. For that, some time is required, execution time. Once compilation execution completed, that response will send it to Java application. That is called response time. Sir, in the last example, prepared statement, I covered already all these calculations. Don't worry. Sir, now observe that. In the case of simple statement, I have to send my SQL query. That query will be compiled, executed, and then I will get the response. Clear, right? Okay. Sir, now my point is how much time per one query, sir? How much time is required per one query? Per one query. Very simple. We have to count request time plus compile time plus execution time plus response time. Are you getting? Sir, request time 1 milliseconds, compile time 1 milliseconds, execution time 1 milliseconds, response time 1 milliseconds. Assume that. Then automatically 4 milliseconds are required to send one SQL query to execute and get the response. Are you getting? How much time is required, sir? 4 milliseconds. Sir, I want to execute 1000 queries. Time per 1000 queries. I want to execute 1000 queries, right? Sir, do you know, if we execute 1000 queries, whether it is the same query or different queries, every time the query will be compiled and executed, sir. Mandatory. Sir, in the case of simple statement, that is the bigger problem. If we execute even same query 1000 times, 1000 times query will be compiled and executed. That's why 1000 into 4 milliseconds, 4000 milliseconds time is required. Everyone can able to understand, right? If you want to execute 1000 queries without batch updates in the case of simple statement, how much time is required, sir? 4000 milliseconds time is required. Clear? I hope everyone can able to understand, right? Sir, now observe same scenario. Let me explain with the prepared statement. Are you getting same scenario? Let me explain with prepared statement so that you can aware. I don't want to use batch updates concept. Without batch updates, prepared statement, what is the scenario, right? Observe that. What is the statement? Hey, can you please respond? What is the statement? Prepared statement. Sir, now, can you tell what is the advantage of prepared statement? Please. Respond, man. I covered already in the last session. Last videos. What is the advantage of prepared statement when compared with simple statement? The biggest advantage of prepared statement is the query will be compiled only once. Even you executed 1 crore times also. At the beginning only, query will be compiled. So, at the time of execution, query won't be compiled. Are you getting how many times query will be compiled, sir? Only once. Remember. Sir, now, if it is the prepared statement, observe that. This is my Java application. Are you getting? This is the Java application. Assume that this is the database. It is the database, right? Now take a bit special care. I'm sending my SQL query. Sir, what is the time? Request time. I'm sending a SQL query, request time. Can you please tell, in the case of prepared statement, if the query is required to compile? No, because it's already compiled at the time of creating prepared statement object only. That's why, sir, we are not required to worry about this. So compilation is not required. Directly execution. Directly execution, sir. Execution time. Now the response by default is going to send, sir. Response time. Sir, now when compared with simple statement, the difference is here compilation is there, but here compilation won't be there, because prepared statement query already compiled at the beginning only. That's why at the time of execution compilation won't be there. Remember that. Sir, now time per one query. Time per one query. How much time is required, sir? Request time plus execution time plus response time. Execution time plus response time. Do you know? 1 millisecond plus 1 millisecond, 1 milliseconds assume, then automatically how much time is required? 3 milliseconds time is required. Clear, right? Sir, same query 1000 times I want to execute, sir. Time per 1000 times. 1000 times execution. Same query, if I want to execute 1000 times, what is the answer, sir? 1000 into 3 millisecond. Its value is nothing but what? 3000 milliseconds only. Have you observed? If it is a simple statement to execute same query 1000 times, 4000 milliseconds are required. If you want to execute same query 1000 times, in the case of prepared statement, only 3000 milliseconds are required. That's why if you want to execute the same query multiple times, highly recommended we should go for what? Prepared statement. Clear for all of it? But anyway, unfortunate, I didn't use batch updates concept as of now. With the batch updates, how much performance improvements are there? That part I will discuss. Clear for all of it? Okay, that's all, sir. Sir, now with the batch updates, now let me talk about, sir, with the batch updates. Okay, now here with the batch updates, right? Sir, in the case of batch updates, all the queries I will group into a single batch, and I will send at a time to the database. That's why 1000 times we are not required to communicate. Observe that if it is simple statement, if it is a normal statement, sir, assume it is a simple statement. Simple statement it is. What I will do is, observe, sir, this is my Java application. Assume this is the Java application, right? Sir, now this Java application maintain batch of SQL queries. What is this one, sir? Batch of SQL queries. Are you getting? Sir, query 1, query 2, query 1000 is there. Assume, sir, now this is my database. This is the database, right? Sir, get a time, all this batch will send to the database or not? Yes, only one request time. Sir, once all these 1000 queries reach to the database, database engine will execute these queries, compile, simple statement, right? Compile, execute, compile, execute, compile, execute like 1000 times it is going to do, and the total result it is going to send at a time to the Java application. Sir, now, sir, time per 1000 queries. I want to execute 1000 queries with the batch updates concept. With the batch updates, with the simple statement, because every query will be compiled, and every query will be executed, because it is the simple statement, right? Can you please tell how much time, sir? Sir, here request time, because only one time only we are going to communicate with how many times? Only one time. Next 1000 into compile time, because sir, every query is required to compile, so 1000. Next plus 1000 into execution time, because 1000 queries are required to execute, plus response time, But how many times we are going to get response? Only once. That's why I'm not using response 1000 times. Remember that. Request, how many times we are required to request? Only one. How many times we will get response? Only one. Even you executed 1000 queries, right? Now observe that 1 milliseconds, 1000 into 1 milliseconds, 1000 into 1 milliseconds plus 1 milliseconds. Do you know what is the values? 1 plus 1000 plus 1000 plus 1 is nothing but 2002 milliseconds time is required. I hope everyone can able to understand. With the batch updates, if you want to execute 1000 queries, okay, by using simple statement, how much time is required? 2002 milliseconds. But the same thing, same statement, without batch update, how much time is required? 4000 milliseconds is required. Almost half of the time we can able to reduce automatically. Performance improvement is there. Correct or not? Performance got improved or not? Yes. Next, 1000 times we are not required to communicate with the database. That's why the biggest advantage, performance, network traffic also by default will be reduced. Clear for all of you, right? So this is with respect to simple statement. But the same scenario, let me explain with the prepared statement. Are you getting that? Now observe that. Second, with the prepared statement. Prepared statement object. Okay. Very simple, sir. This is my Java application. Sir, I want to execute same query. How many times, right? 1000 times. My batch contain 1000 times the same query. Sir, query is the same, but 1000 times I want to execute. Something like insert query only, but 1000 different records I want to insert. Remember that. Sir, now Java application, 1000 queries. Sir, I have to execute. Next, go to the database. Sir, assume this is the database. How many times we have to send? Only one time. But it is the prepared statement. This query already compiled or not? Yes. It is not going to be compiled once again, sir. That's why only execution. Sir, 1000 times 1000 queries are going to be executed. 1000 times the same query is going to be executed. Sir, next the result I have to send to the Java application. How many times I require to send to the Java application? Only once. Now time per 1000 times query execution. Assume time for 1000 times query execution. Sir, request time plus 1000 into execution time, because every time the query is required to execute, then automatically 1000 times query execution. Response time. Sir, can you please observe request time 1 milliseconds, 1000 into 1 milliseconds execution time. Response time is only 1 millisecond. Then what about its values are 1002 milliseconds time. Are you getting best combination, right? 1002 milliseconds, right? Same case, same scenario. If I use simple statement, 2002 millisecond, but the same without batch updates prepared statement, if I use 3000 millisecond, 3000 milliseconds time got reduced to 1002 milliseconds. So is it advantage or not? Yes, performance wise a clear improvement is there. That's why if you want to execute multiple queries, multiple types of queries, okay, sir, if you want to execute multiple types of queries, then don't go for one by one, better to go for batch updates concept. Are you getting batch updates with a simple statement? Because different queries, right? Sir, I want to execute same query multiple times I require to execute, then better to go for batch updates with the prepared statement. Best performance improvements by default will be there. Clear for all of you, right? Sir, with respect to statistics, okay, in the material clearly I documented all these things so that you people can get much clarity, right? Of course I will show the material, don't worry about that. So can you please tell what is the advantage of batch updates? Respond, man. What is the advantage of batch update? performance will be improved, and network traffic by default will be reduced. Don't send queries one by one. Better to send all those queries as a group to the database. That group itself is nothing but batch. So performance improvements, network traffic by default will be reduced, right? Sir, just observe our material. Observe that. Sir, need of batch updates. Sir, our topic name is batch updates concept, right? Need of batch updates. Okay, whenever we submit multiple SQL queries to the database one by one, then lot of time will be wasted in request and response. Okay, in the case of simple statement, Java application, request time, compile time, execution time, response time. So total time per query 4 millisecond, per 1000 queries 4000 milliseconds, right? If it is a simple statement without batch updates. Next, in the case of prepared statement, sir, without batch updates, request time, execution time, response time, total time per query 3 millisecond. 1000 queries means same query 1000 times, 3000 millisecond. In the above two cases, we are trying to submit 1000 queries to the database one by one. For submitting 1000 queries, we need to communicate with the database 1000 times. Are you getting right? It increases network traffic between Java application and database, and even create performance problems, right? I hope everyone can able to understand. So to overcome this problem, these problems, we should go for what? Batch updates. We can group all SQL queries into a single batch, and we can send that batch at a time to the database, right? Sir, Java application, this is the batch group of SQL queries, batch of SQL queries database. With a simple statement, sir, request time 1000 times compilation, 1000 times execution, response time 2002 milliseconds, right? With prepared statement, for 1000 queries, request time 1000 into execution time, no compilation because it is the prepared statement, right? Sir, 1002 milliseconds, right? Hence, the main advantages of batch updates are we can reduce network traffic, we can improve performance, right? Clear for all of it, right? Sir, if any person is asking, Array, can you please explain batch update? I hope theoretically clear for all of you how the performance will be improved. Next, how the network traffic by default will be reduced. Clear? I hope everyone. Now, if you feel comfortable, now I will explain in the next video how to implement this batch update with the simple statement, with the prepared statement, so that I will show the performance improvements, right? Okay, that's all, sir. Thank you.